Hi everyone, good day to you all. First of all, I would like to send my apologies because I make this video because I cannot deliver offline lecture because I'm outside Indonesia right now. So here is the video for this week topics. I knew that we supposed to be also hearing the presentation from Alphonse Group, but we're going to do it next week. So you're just going to have for a while for that. We're going to do it next week offline, of course. So the topic for this week, I'm going to directly share screen my slide. You're just going to have to wait for a while. Okay, so the topics for this week is about cultural differences and then global negotiation. It is still related with the previous topics that talking about intercultural communication between countries to countries. I think we are having so much fun like before midterm and then discussing about those topic, and then we have online class after that. I think it's quite interesting when we talk about other cultures and then how is it we communicate to each other, and then we are using directly the example from several of you, like for example Noval, and then Aveto, and then Amin as well, and then William together with Fatima. I think a good law during that time, yeah. Yeah, funny moment. So anyway, we're going to continue in discussing about cultural differences among nation, and then how is it is going to affect the global negotiation. We talk about in terms of business, but I think I can correlate much as well in terms of my responsibility in international class and international affairs. I do like communicates a lot and then doing negotiation a lot with other university. And then typically I find a lot of things like differences among other nation that representing by their university. Of course, that's their uniqueness. I'm not going to talk about the bad thing or the good thing as well, but I find it those are the uniqueness that I find it is kind of good to know and then kind of interesting. And then this is a very special experience that I can feel, yeah, something that very interesting. So that is why because I can correlate with the thing much, I also can implement how is it the situation in the business when we talk about global negotiation. Okay, I want you to hear this topic quite diligently because I got a few questions for you. So you have to listen and then you will be able to answer the question because I will be given the question in the middle of the topics. Okay. Okay, let's talk about what is culture. I think when we perceive culture, it is associated with the things that become the uniqueness of one region, one country, or like, for example, our ethnicity. If we talk about our ethnicity is going to be diverse, it's going to be totally different. Like, for example, I coming from Jawa Timur. My parents is both Madura, so I do got influenced a lot from their culture. What I can learn from their culture is that they are quite perseverance and then they are quite hardworking. Among the good things, of course, every ethnicity there are bad things. Every ethnicity, I can assure you that. But let's talk about the strength. So I think when I talk, when I learn about those things like perseverance, diligently, persistent, and then hard work, I learned that we have to pursue our goals. So those are the things that I learned. So whatever it takes, I have to get what I want. Is it a bad thing? No, it's a good thing because what I want is always a good thing. So you have to learn some of the good things or the good things or the strength of your ethnicity. So I think those are the culture. And then culture, it is something that relates with arts. And then when we perceive it like manner, behavior as well. Let's talk about the ethnicity. So my ethnicity, like Madura, they have like Karapan Sapi, but I haven't watched directly Karapan Sapi in Jawa Timur. I do want to watch it someday I do want to visit perhaps my far away relatives and then watch directly Karapan Sapi. But in a way, also when we talk about behavior, some ethnicity is closely related with Indonesia culture as well. We value ethics and then we value mannerism. Those are among several things that we're having by a lot of ethnicity in Indonesia. So those are culture that are coming all the way from history and that it inherited to us. It is something that we have to value, cherish the most. So you don't have to be feeling so bad. Like for example, you are Indonesian and then we perceive mannerism and then we talk with honorific, like for example we call Bapa, Ibu, or we take honor toward looking at elder people. So something that we have to value is a good thing, right? Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Okay, next is this topic going to be talking about among nation, this world, which one is negotiate better? Of course, when we talk about negotiation, we cannot use the word which one is better, which one is bad, because better, according to us, is in terms of manner or behavior. While the other nation talking about how the outcome or target is going to be totally different between one nation to another nation. So so it is the word better is not appropriate to use in this kind of terminology. But since we are talking about negotiation, if I use the word better later on, it just to put a stress on the topics or on the story that I'm trying to create. So actually different nationalities negotiating within national boundaries. Like for example, similar outcomes across nation. I give you example between Indonesia and Malaysia. We share the same culture. I mean, because nenek moyangku seorang pelaut, and then I think I have told you this story, right? When our ancestors seorang pelaut coming all the way across the sea, yeah, I think I value our ancestor seorang pelaut. I mean, like they are, I think, strong people and quite a hero in my perception because even I get seasick. Even like in a car, I have to drive the car. If I'm not driving the car, I get seasick. Ya, itu kok nggak kayak nenek moyangku seorang pelaut gitu. Miss harus minum antimo gitu. Nah, itu gitu. Padahal udah kemana-mana gitu kan. Tapi sometimes I took a pill, one small half bite of the antimo in order not to, get a hangover over the seasick or plane sick or whatever sick that occurred during my journey. But our ancestor, bayangkan, by using a ships and then they just crossing the sea with all the waves and all the things that happening in the sea, and then they come to Malaysia and then married a Malaysian woman. Nah, tuh Amin. Nah, untuk Amin, itu bayangkan nenek moyangku seorang pelaut aja menyeberangi lautan untuk menikahi seorang wanita. Masa Amin kalah? Kok jadi aku sih? Nah, itu those are and then they married and then they teach their children with the culture of Indonesia, ampar pisang, and then suddenly their children thinking this is our song, this is our culture. So culture is something that that is much more bigger than nation. So we cannot just thinking that this culture, one specific culture, is ours. No, we cannot say that. But in terms of, like, for example, acknowledgement, we can take it to make it official by register it to the institution. We can do that. For example, batik. Malaysia also have their own batik. We also have our own batik with our motifs. So the motifs that were registered, not the batik itself. Yeah, okay. And then next, different processes, Americans, like for example, increase profits by making opponent uncomfortable because they are seeking for the target or outcome. But while the Japanese is the opposite because they are value friendship. If the other person is not feeling comfortable with the process, they will not go for it. I want to tell a story. Of course, we have a partnership with Japanese university. The one that like a closest family is Kochi University. So before the pandemic, the professor always visit us every year. And then I took them to drink Asian coffee. That is the first time I drank Asian coffee. And then I took it in the morning, there are two. And then suddenly, I cannot sleep the whole night. I cannot sleep. And then we have together, we have the three of us, I have activities in the morning, like giving specific lecture to communities that collaborates with pemerintah kota. And then I don't sleep, of course. I got so smoky eyes because of drowsiness, like from lack of sleep. So when in the afternoon when I bring them for snacking, they ask me, I can we can see you that you are so tired. They said that we are sorry if we are posing that you are so tired. And then I said, no, 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 it's not because of you. I'm so happy to have this activity together, looking forward this like since last year. Actually, when I drank the coffee yesterday, it's too strong. The caffeine is too strong, and then I cannot sleep. Cannot sleep. So that is why I my eyes were showing, but my eyes are showing it, but I'm totally okay. And then they are feeling uncomfortable with me. I mean, not because my behavior, that the way I respond to their response. No, 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 because they are feeling that they have been neglecting how I felt, my physical things. And then when I drove them to the hotel, suddenly after I got home, they called me and then they said that they want to cancel the dinner. And then they don't give the reason, but I knew it is because they want to give me a rest, a proper rest, because I don't get a proper sleep last night. So those are the things that we can learn from the Japanese. It's not the target of outcome, but the process. I value that also from them. I don't achieve target or outcome. I process the value. I honor the process. So that is why I still now still I make a good friends, like a family with them, because I learn from them to value the process, not target or outcome. Okay, and then let's take a look at the Brazilian people. They are increasing profit by power and deception tactics. We have to be careful on this one, but this thing is something I think that the perception can be much better. So currently, perhaps the perception or the way they negotiate is already changing. And then Chinese people is asking more question, and then they just they say small few things, but they ask us much more question. They just want to interrupt a lot. They ask this, they ask this, they ask this, even the smallest thing. I experienced that also with Chinese university. But I'm not trying to say a bad thing, because every university or every nation, when we talk about, when I'm talking about a university, I'm talking about how the nation in general, but they have a few good, not few, a lot of strength as well. So when I'm talking about this one, I'm not talking about the bad things. We have to value every nation. They have to not be, I mean, um, I forgot the terminology, but let's continue. Okay. So that is why the Chinese people are asking a lot of questions. So we have to explain to them a lot. And then through cross-cultural negotiation, poorer outcomes for Japanese and English Canadian, because they are not seeking for the target outcome. They are valuing the process. I already explained to you before. And then no harm for American, more in terms of statistical. And then French Canadian, more in the group, because they also quite different from the Japanese outcome, quite similar with the American one. They are targeting for the outcome. And then when we talk about American negotiator from the perspective, the international perspective, of course, they have strength and then weaknesses. Their strength is they quite prepared. So when you come to them, you have to be prepared with all the materials. And then they quite pragmatism. Everything is about target outcome. I'm going to give you example on how the way they wrote an email to us. Like, for example, of course, they have dear, yeah, dear, blah, 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 blah. And then but they are directly for us we give a prologue, and then they don't they of course they say thank you, but they don't wrote warmest or kind regards or best regards. They just directly writing their names, for example, her mama Lini. Okay, so that is explaining how straightforward they are in terms of not only writing email, but in anything. I think I've told you that in like honorifics, we can call them directly with their names. For example, Brian or Nopal or Sensa or Putri or Fiona or Angel or Natania. So if you call your lecturer, dah bubar. Bubar hidup kalian kalau kalian manggil nama dosen kalian dengan namanya. Di Indonesia, bubar of course not like just a jokes. Bubar in term of the lecturer will consider you rude. Yeah, is something that we value the most. So you have to call them either by Bapak or Ibu. But I think in the university level, I also like the way student in Malaysia calling their lecturer. They're calling them by doctor if their lecturer is already have a doctoral title. It's a good thing. Like for example, Dr. Helma, yeah, between colleagues to colleagues as well, they call us Dr. Helma. I think they value, because it's kind of difficult to earn doctoral degree, so they value the effort, the sacrifice that made by their colleagues or their lecturer. So they are calling their lecturer by doctor. But for me, you can just call me with Miss Helma. Okay, now American negotiator is very cooperative and fair, and then they are a win-win orientation, and then willingness to make concessions, uh, in the between, as long as they are achieving their target. But they also have weaknesses. Their weaknesses, which is they are cultural insensitivity. They just like thinking about their side. But I think while I'm cooperating with American University, they always also sensitive toward our culture. It's a good thing. So when we talk about weaknesses, it's keep on changing. Not necessarily is becoming the things that not changing. They are changing. And then they are impatient, but in a way they're also patient. If I can say, it's different, depends on the institution, depends on the people as well. And then next is lack of unified constituencies, and then poor listening skill. But I think this one also on the basis of different people, different institution, because based on my experience, they are very attentive and they are very having a very good listening skills. And then next is too quick to concede and don't understand small talk. This one, I agree to disagree, because based on my experience, the even like having a small talk with me, even like when we have a meeting, 30 minutes of the meeting we're spending in telling stories about their families, about what happened to them for the past 2 months. So yeah, like I said before, so it is depends on the people or the institution. Let me took my drink first, and then I'll get back with our explanation. Okay, let's go back. So, and then what are some shared American values? So these are the assumption underlying the American culture. I think we watch a lot of Hollywood movies. The recent one, for example, Avatar. What do you think? It's a good one? I think it's a good one also, but I'm having difficulties when I'm watching it because I'm using glasses when I watch something, but and then they are giving us the 3D glasses, so it's kind of difficult. I do enjoy the movies good, but back to our topics, we do watch Hollywood movies a lot, and then what the movies portrays to us that American culture is heroism. They are conquering everything. They are like becoming the hero when there is something bad happen to the world. So, is that something that you perceive also about American culture? So, is it those perception where make us becoming afraid or reluctant in conducting a negotiation or collaboration with them? So, it is something that worth to discuss. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this is before we answer to the American thing before, we have to understand how is it the level of cultural understanding between nations. The first is observable behavior. We can learn a lot, but we want to likely to focus on do's and don'ts. So how about if we forget the do's and don'ts, just like we try to communicate between human and human. I mean, we just eliminate the boundaries between us, whatever the restriction between us. Just forget they are coming from Japanese, they are coming from the American, they are Brazilian, they are Chinese. Just forget. Just consider us human to human, and then have a normal conversation between friends to friends. I think I saw, and not so, I'm the one who took the videos between Noval during the CCIP with Kansas. I think it's a good conversation. Like Noval consider the teammates like a good friends. Hi Connor, how about you Connor? Kayak sahabat udah lama kenal gitu, main sahabat di pengkolan, sama-sama main futsal gitu, main futsal together. Yeah, those kind of conversation is something that we should begin when we talk to other people. Don't think ourselves much more lower than them. Don't think ourselves is much more bigger to them. We just human to human. We are having some difficulties. We are having ups and downs. Even the most super power human in the world have ups and downs because we are human. So when we are thinking that we are human to human, is going to be easy, much more easier to begin the conversation. Okay, let's go back to the shared values. When we try to set value, we have to require inferences from observed behavior and then learning about other culture. And then it is much more powerful because the values drive to behavior. Like, for example, we do understand that Japanese people is very polite. And then when we understand that, we are trying to cherish them. They're not trying to make fun or jokes when they bowing us, keep bowing us every time. So I think it's not a good thing when we make fun or make a joke toward other cultures because we have a funny culture also, and we feel very disappointed if other cultures, other nation or other people make a fun of our culture. So it is like not a good thing or a very rude thing if we trying to like smirk on like if Japanese people bowing every time they meet us, not bowing once or two times, they do it very oftenly or frequently. So we just have to bow and follow along. Okay, next is share assumption. So in a very abstract way, this drive values, but also very hard to determine. It is very powerful, and then but also help to understand a culture. For example, if I use the Japanese culture, what are the shared values that we share together? Is it I think we share mannerism as well, but Japanese like much more better than us in terms of mannerism. So because we share the same values, we have to like create the same bonding. So those are the meaning of shared assumption. Okay, next is though these are the dimension that were used by negotiation. In terms of negotiation, we use from the Hofstad's dimension. The first one is power of distance. In terms of power, we are expect to perceive some of these nations have a very low in honor in terms of Anglo-Germanic and then Scandinavian. I think you can learn from the history. They are thinking that the rest is much more better than the other rest. Of course, it is much more better now. There are lots of good people in Germany, but you can meet if you met them in the business or whatever appointment that where you met this Anglo-Germany and in Scandinavian, you will find that they will be thinking that they are much more honored than the others. And then high is developing a nation, like for example, a Pacific Rim. So the effect as in terms of business implementation, as power distance increases, more approval from the higher ups and less involvement from the lower levels. So we can expect more from the formalities, like for example, from the culture and then from the status, how they perceive on us. Okay, next we move on to how is it the Hofstad's value individualism and then collectivism as well. To the extent where society is organized by individual or groups, for example, Western European and then Latin America and then Pacific Rim as well, where generally wealthier society tends to be more individualist. And then, like, for example, relationship stability over time emphasizes individual negotiator, where they just like sending one person to do the negotiation, while the other group of corporation usually sending a lot of people to do negotiation. It is related with how they perceive, like for example, if they send the one individual, they cannot achieve consensus. But if they send a group of people, they would be able to achieve consensus. Okay, next is Hofstede, using the Hofstad's, talking about masculinity and femininity. When we are talking about this one, we are talking about a woman and man. So, like for example, I think a lot of Asian have gender stereotypes. For example, Japan and Go Germany thinking that they usually send male to do the negotiation, while Scandinavian usually send female. I think I have watched movies like, for example, Lord of the Rings and then Game of Thrones, and where the Scandinavians heroes or women typically becoming the apa sih pendekar or satria or the one in the war frontliner. So I think that also describing how they are in terms of negotiation as well. Okay, next is uncertainty avoidance. According to Hofstad's, degree of discomfort with unstructured situation. High were showed by no strong pattern, but many Hispanic nation. And then low is but no strong pattern. It can be changing is Anglo or Scandinavian. And then high prefers stable rules and procedures, less adaptive. High also tend to be more risk averse, and then risk aversion has played in too many non-dynamics. And then high tends to do business ritualistically and then informally. So there is informal and a formal situation where we can just have negotiation over small talk, but while the other one cannot have negotiation, they over a small talk or a casual situation, they have to have a formal dinner to do that. I experienced that a lot. Good experience. Okay, next we move on to the how about the other culture? Wow, the colors like giving light, yeah, to the background is a good one. Mhm. Okay, so next is other culture variables. When we talk about the time, present versus future, and then past orientation, and then time as linear versus time as colors, uh, uh, perceived by a lot of nations. For example, the Americans, they are obsessed with time. Like for example, how much time do we going to take for this meeting, and then what deadlines that I have to compile or fulfill to achieve this target. So they are very obsessed with time. What do you think? How about with Indonesian people? This is that question. The question is right after this. And then universalism versus particularism. Like for example, can ideas or practices can be applied everywhere, every time, or do circumstances dictates application? So this one is in terms of resident adapting style, processes, agreement to situation, and then emotionally, this will be a great potential to misunderstanding, and then achievement for description. Well, this is something that you've done or who you are. How will a person be viewed in negative situation? Like for example, you are in embarking the negative situation, and then how is it the other nation respond toward the negative situation? Like for example, during the business talk, something uncomfortable happening, usually their response showing how is it they are going to handle your business, the business later on. Okay, I think next we move on to India. So this is going to be the question. Okay, the question that you have to answer in the comment section in the Google Classroom, where I will give the announcement later, is what do you think about the culture of India, and then what are the strengths and then their weaknesses? First, what do you think about the culture of India? And then the second one, is the weaknesses and the strength of India culture? And then the third one, how to do business with them if you already knew the strength and the weaknesses. Kindly wrote that in Microsoft Word. I think not in the comment section. I think it's okay in the comment section only. Mana ya, Miss berubah-ubah? Nggak apa-apa. Kan manusia. So you have to write it in the comment section. Just write it. You can tag as long as you want. 10,000 words or 500 words is up to you. Those are the questions, okay? Now we move on to how about some communication differences, like for example, verbal communication, non-verbal, and then the concept of face. Usually, a lot of nations using face to convey the message, including us Indonesia as well. For example, you give a very you stare at something with resting face. I don't want to say the B one because resting B it face, and then you trying to say that you are disapproved with the agreement or the negotiation. While verbal communication, like for example, a lot of people from another nation speaking with higher tone, but actually they are not mad. They just speak with higher tone. So those are the things that we have to understand. If you happen to be met with someone who speak with higher tone, you don't have to associate them being angry to you. Then you have to respond, why are you angry with me? Why are you shouting? They are not angry, just the way they speak. So you have to respond it normally. Okay, next is the next question would be about Italian people and the Russian people. So for the first question with Indian people, how to negotiate? I asked you 3 questions, but this one typically the question for you to answer is how to negotiate with Italy and then Russia. So you have to answer 2 specific questions. India with 3 subdivided questions. While this one is another question, but with Italy and Russia. But you don't have to describe this one, what is the strength and weaknesses. You just have to go directly answering how to do business with Italy and then Russia, particularly on how to handle the people in terms of negotiation. Okay, so this one is the example of the communication patterns by using Japanese, American, and Brazilian. Verbal interruption in 10 minutes, we can say that Japanese people tend to be very attentive. They will listen to us for a long time. But we don't know what they are having in their mind about what we say. But American, usually, they also kind of attentive, but the Brazilian will also listen to us much more longer. And then the silent interrupts for 10 seconds per 30 minutes. The Japanese is 5.5, American is 3.5, and then Brazilian is 0. And then eye contact is 1.3, 3.3, and then Brazilian people will keep on staring at our eyes. I think in Japanese culture is they quite shy, so they don't want to stare at us. And then touches 0, 0, American, Brazilian, you will meet them, keep on touching you in a way not in very sexual manner. They just, oh, okay, for example, tapping your shoulder, something like that. So these are the how the implementation of negotiation process and timing for American and domestic and international negotiation. You can see that the value is a cross number, and then international is one because before using American, this implementation using American as well. You can see the number. 1 is for orientation and fact finding, and then 2 is for resistance, 3 is for reformulation of strategies, the 4 is hard bargaining and decision making, the 5th is agreement, and then the 6th is follow up. The range is, like for example, if in international, American is much more longer or much more wider in number 1. So it means they are more focused on orientation and then fact finding as well. And then you can read the rest and then trying to figure out later on. So this is how is it the negotiation strategy works in other countries. For example, Australia and Sweden, close to final settlement, they were usually haggling. And then Russia, Egypt, and China, they were expect lots of haggling in some nation. And the rule of thumb, they won't always work. So apply with caution. They like, for example, you using this term to show the agreement or disagreement. So these are adjusted, but it's not always working. So you have to see the situation. And then detail versus big picture of presentation. Usually this country, Germany, UK, and Swiss, Japan, emphasizing on formality, logic, data, and organization. And then Latin America, Middle East, we're using broad concept refer in some other areas. Okay, for this one, you can read the last read the rest of this and then get to know more and then try to understand what is the meaning of this slide. For example, be cautious that several countries, like for example, Niger is usually using dirty tricks, but like I said before, it depends on the people and then the institution, because there are a lot of good people also in the world, but also there are a lot of bad people. We just have to be careful on. Yeah, a lot of good people, very lot of good people, few bad people. So the one that we want to attract is beautiful soul or good people. Okay, so that is the topics for today. Cultural differences, and then how is it affecting negotiation. Thank you so much, everyone. We will see you again. Bye-bye.